Kick her out. She's broke. Look at that threadbare sweater. She doesn't belong here. My ex-fiancé Julian's arrogant laugh echoed through the gold leaf foyer of Ethelgard, the city's most exclusive five-star club. Standing beside his wealthy new girlfriend, he signaled security to throw me out into the pouring rain. 3 years ago, he abandoned me at my lowest financial point, believing I was permanently ruined. He had no idea the quiet woman he discarded had secretly built a multi-million-dollar holding trust and purchased this entire property 6 months ago. I didn't argue. I simply slid my unembossed, matte black titanium MasterCard across the marble counter. When the VIP hostess swiped it, the register chimed, flashing crimson. Master proprietor override. Her breath hitched. Her face drained of all color as she grabbed her radio in pure, shaking panic. Code red. The actual billionaire owner is standing at the front door. My name is Clara Sterling. I'm 28 years old, and on a drizzly Tuesday evening, I looked like anyone else trying to dodge the autumn chill. I wore an oversized, faded wool sweater, worn-in sneakers, and a damp jacket. To the untrained eye, I looked lost. But I wasn't lost at all. I had arrived at Ethelgard, the city's most prestigious private members club, tucked behind towering wrought iron gates and polished marble columns. 6 months ago, I acquired majority ownership of this property through my private investment holding firm. I had intentionally kept my name off the press releases. Tonight was supposed to be a quiet, unannounced visit just to observe the front-of-house operations without the artificial pomp and circumstance that usually follows an owner. I pushed through the heavy revolving glass doors, shaking the rain from my collar. The foyer was breathtaking, crystal chandeliers casting a warm amber glow over polished brass fixtures, the air rich with the scent of roasted coffee beans and cedarwood. But before I could even take 3 steps toward the concierge desk, a sharp, patronizing laugh cut through the quiet hum of the lobby. Well, look what the rain washed in. I froze. That voice was painfully familiar. I turned to see Julian standing near the velvet-roped entrance to the main lounge. He wore an immaculate tailored navy suit, looking every bit the high-roller persona he spent his life cultivating. Clinging to his arm was Vanessa, draped in designer silk, looking down her nose at the world as if it owed her an apology. Julian looked me up and down, his lips curling into a cruel smirk. Clara? Did you take a wrong turn looking for the soup kitchen, or are you actually applying to wash dishes here? Vanessa giggled, resting her manicured hand on his chest. Julian, darling, do you know this girl? She's getting water all over the imported rug. An old mistake from my past, Julian announced loudly, intentionally drawing the attention of the surrounding guests and the VIP hostess standing behind the podium. He took 2 arrogant steps toward me, pointing directly at my damp sweater. Security. Why is this woman inside the building? She's clearly broke, trespassing, and bothering members. Kick her out into the rain, where she belongs. 3 years ago, Julian's words might have shattered me. Back then, I was 25, exhausted, and pouring every cent of my savings into a logistics analytics platform I built from scratch. When our first round of seed funding fell through due to a market shift, I thought my life was over. Julian didn't just leave. He made sure to kick me on his way out. He emptied our shared apartment, took my car because his name was on the lease, and told all of our mutual friends that I was a delusional failure who dragged him down. He even pitched one of my early software concepts to an investment group, claiming it was entirely his own work. I spent months eating instant noodles in a moldy studio apartment, working 18-hour days to refine my algorithms. I didn't cry for revenge. I worked for survival. While Julian used his flashy charisma to secure entry-level consulting gigs and drown himself in credit card debt to look wealthy, I stayed completely invisible. And then, the breakthrough happened. A major supply chain firm acquired my core software infrastructure for 7 figures, while keeping me on as the primary technology consultant with massive equity. Within 18 months, that equity compounded. I didn't buy sports cars, designer suits, or bottle service at trendy clubs. Instead, I established a private holding trust, quietly acquiring distressed real estate, high-end hospitality venues, and premium commercial assets across the state. I learned early on that true wealth never shouts. Only desperate people need an audience to validate their existence. Julian, standing there in his rented Tom Ford jacket with an inflated posture, was the ultimate embodiment of that illusion. I knew his type inside out. He lived from invoice to invoice, financing a lavish lifestyle on high-interest credit lines just to impress people like Vanessa, people who would abandon him the second the card declined. He looked at my simple attire and saw an easy target from his past to humiliate, completely blind to the reality that the ground beneath his feet was already mine. The VIP hostess behind the podium, an immaculately groomed woman named Chloe, shifted nervously under Julian's commanding tone. She cast a sharp, judgmental glance at my wet sneakers, clearly deciding in an instant whose side of the social ladder she wanted to protect. She stepped around the desk, chin raised, and moved directly toward me. "Excuse me, miss," Chloe said, her voice dripping with practiced politeness that barely concealed her disdain. "This is a private, members-only establishment. If you are not an active guest or accompanied by a registered member, I must ask you to step outside immediately." Julian smirked, crossing his arms and leaning back on his heels. "I told you, Chloe. She's an old acquaintance who doesn't know her place. Just call the front gate guards to escort her off the premises before she disturbs anyone else." Vanessa chimed in with a soft, dismissive chuckle. "Honestly, it's a health code violation just having those soaking wet shoes on this Italian marble. Do we really have to wait around for security?" I didn't blink. I didn't raise my voice, nor did I show a single flicker of anger. I looked directly into the hostess's eyes. "I'm aware of the club's exclusivity policies, Chloe. But before you call security, I suggest you verify my credentials. It will save you a tremendous amount of professional embarrassment." Chloe gave a tight, patronizing smile. "Miss, unless your name is on the digital registry, there is nothing to verify. We don't take walk-ins, and we certainly don't allow non-members to linger in the reception hall." "Then run the card," I replied calmly. I reached into the inner pocket of my damp jacket and pulled out a sleek, unembossed matte black titanium card. There were no flashy bank logos, no raised gold numbers, just a minimalist laser-etched geometric crest in the center. I placed it gently on the polished marble counter. Julian let out a loud, mocking bark of laughter. "What is that, a custom debit card you ordered online to look important? Clara, please, stop embarrassing yourself. You're making a scene." Chloe sighed with visible irritation, clearly wanting to get the interaction over with. She picked up the card with the tips of her fingers, rolled her eyes toward Julian in shared amusement, and swiped it through the terminal to prove me wrong. Then, the entire room shifted. The main terminal didn't emit the standard soft beep for a guest check-in. Instead, a deep, resonant chime echoed from the system. The screen instantly flashed bright crimson, locking down all background operations. A golden executive crest took over the display, accompanied by 3 bold words in white text: "Master Proprietor Override." Chloe's patronizing smile instantly froze. The color drained from her cheeks, leaving her skin stark white. Her breath hitched in her throat, her eyes darting between the monitor and the quiet woman standing before her. She wasn't looking at a membership profile. She was looking at the root administrative credential of the entire property. Chloe's fingers trembled so violently she nearly dropped her earpiece. Her gaze flicked frantically between the blinking terminal and my calm expression. She pressed the communication button on her collar, her voice cracking as she spoke into the microphone. "Code red. Grand Foyer. Mr. Vance, please." Code red immediately. Julian chuckled, mistaking her panic for urgent security enforcement. "Look at that, Clara. You broke their system with your fake card. Now the general manager is coming down personally. You've really done it this time." Vanessa crossed her arms, smirking in satisfaction. Some people just don't know when to accept defeat. It's pathetic, really. Within 30 seconds, the heavy double doors at the top of the grand marble staircase flew open. Arthur Vance, the club's notoriously strict general manager, a man known across the city's hospitality elite for his unbending discipline, came jogging down the stairs in a full sprint. He was hastily fastening the buttons of his tailored tuxedo jacket, beads of sweat glistening on his forehead. Two senior security supervisors rushed closely behind him, scanning the room in high alert. Julian stepped forward with an inflated chest, spreading his hands in a gesture of helpful authority. "Mr. Vance, thank goodness you're here. I was just helping your hostess handle a trespassing situation." This woman pushed her way inside without a pass and attempted to use a fraudulent card. "I suggest you have your guards escort her." Mr. Vance didn't even look at him. Without breaking stride, Vance sidestepped Julian so abruptly that his shoulder brushed Julian aside, nearly knocking him off balance. Vance stopped 3 feet in front of me, snapped his heels together, and bowed deeply at the waist, a formal greeting reserved exclusively for the board of directors. "Madam Founder," Vance said, his voice breathless and laced with absolute deference. "We had no notice of your arrival. Please accept my deepest apologies for any delay at the front desk. Had I known, the entire executive staff would have received you at the entrance." The lobby fell into a suffocating, dead silence. The low hum of jazz from the lounge seemed to freeze. Julian's smug grin vanished, his mouth slightly agape, as if all the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. Vanessa's condescending posture stiffened into sheer bewilderment. "Stand up, Arthur," I said quietly, picking up my titanium card from the counter. "I came unannounced on purpose. I wanted to see how our guests and non-guests are treated when they walk through our doors." Julian stood motionless, his face turning an unreadable shade of gray. His eyes darted between Arthur Vance's bowed head and the matte black card resting in my hand. "Mr. Vance, there has to be a mistake," Julian stammered, his confident baritone cracking into a thin, nervous rasp. "This is Clara. She's an ex-associate. She doesn't own anything. She built a failing analytics tool 3 years ago. She's broke." Vance turned slowly, his deference vanishing instantly as he fixed Julian with a gaze sharp enough to cut glass. "Mr. Miller, you're speaking to Clara Sterling. She is the principal director of Sterling Horizon Holdings, which acquired 100% of the parent entity of Ethelgard 6 months ago. She owns this building, the ground it sits on, and the operating charter under which you stand." Vanessa gasped, stepping back from Julian as if standing near him had suddenly become hazardous. "Julian? What is he talking about? You told me you owned equity in the holding group that manages this place." I stepped past Julian, not even looking directly at him, and rested a hand on the marble podium. "Arthur, let's talk about guest standards." I watched front-of-house staff make snap judgments based on clothing rather than character. But more importantly, I'm curious why we allow individuals with questionable standing to treat our lobby like their personal kingdom. Vance stepped behind the terminal, his fingers flying across the mechanical keys. "An audit, Madam Founder?" "Pull up Mr. Miller's profile," I said smoothly. The terminal hummed, and Vance's eyes narrowed as lines of financial records populated the display. "Mr. Miller holds a provisional Tier 2 trial membership, sponsored under a corporate partnership. However, according to our central ledger, his quarterly dues are 45 days past due. Furthermore, 3 separate incident reports have been filed by junior staff regarding unpaid dining tabs and aggressive behavior toward hospitality workers." Julian swallowed hard, sweat now visibly beading along his hairline. "I was going to settle those accounts at the end of the month. It's just a banking delay." "A banking delay?" Vanessa hissed, glaring at him with pure disgust. "You told me you were a lifetime platinum founder here. You made me pay for the valet because you said your corporate card was being upgraded." The facade had shattered entirely. The expensive suit, the confident posture, the loud demands, it was all a paper-thin disguise hiding a mountain of debt and desperate posturing. Julian wasn't a titan of industry. He was an empty echo. "Arthur," I said calmly, breaking the tense silence that hung over the foyer. "What is our standard protocol for a provisional member with delinquent dues and multiple staff complaints?" Vance didn't hesitate for a fraction of a second. "Immediate revocation of club privileges, forfeiture of the entry deposit, and permanent blacklisting from all Sterling Horizon properties worldwide." "Then execute protocol," I replied quietly. We don't harbor counterfeit integrity under this roof. Right away, Madam Founder. Vance tapped a single key on the terminal, permanently purging Julian's access pass. He then turned his stern gaze toward the two security officers waiting near the door. Gentlemen, please escort Mr. Miller off the property. Ensure he collects all personal belongings from the coat check and leaves the grounds immediately. Julian's face drained of every ounce of pride. Clara, wait. Please. We have history. You can't do this to me. My firm's partners come here every Thursday. If they find out I was banned, I'll lose my position. You should have considered your professional standing before trying to humiliate someone to feed your own ego, I said, my voice steady and unwavering. Vanessa snatched her designer handbag off the counter, stepping entirely away from him. Don't touch me, Julian. You used me to get into rooms you couldn't afford, and you lied about everything. We're done. Vanessa, wait, let me explain. Save it for the rain, she snapped, turning sharply on her heel and walking out toward the valet on her own. The two security guards stepped forward, firmly placing their hands on Julian's shoulders and guiding him toward the revolving doors. For all his grand talk about kicking broke people out into the storm, he was the one being walked out under the cold downpour, his posture completely broken. I turned my attention back to the reception desk, where Chloe stood with her head bowed, trembling in terror. Chloe, I said evenly. Yes, ma'am. I am so deeply sorry, she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't know. You don't need to apologize for not recognizing me, I said, keeping my tone firm yet composed. You need to reflect on why your courtesy was conditional on someone's clothing. True luxury isn't about looking down on others. It's about providing unmatched dignity to everyone who enters our doors. You will receive a formal retraining cycle, but if I ever see arrogance at this desk again, you will follow Mr. Miller out those doors. Yes, Madam Founder. Thank you for the grace. It won't happen again, she replied earnestly. I followed Arthur Vance up the private glass elevator to the top-floor executive terrace. The room opened up into a breathtaking panorama of the city skyline, where millions of city lights reflected across the rain-slicked streets below. Vance set down a warm cup of herbal tea on the low mahogany table, bowed respectfully, and quietly stepped outside to leave me in peace. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling glass, watching the yellow headlights crawl through the night. Somewhere down on that wet pavement, Julian was searching for a cab, his manufactured prestige stripped away and his illusions shattered. 3 years ago, I had believed his cruel words, that without him, I was destined to be a nobody. I thought about the bitter nights in that cold studio apartment, counting coins for groceries while rewriting code until sunrise. Those painful trials didn't break me, they gave me clarity. Real power doesn't come from expensive logos, loud demands, or tearing down the people around you just to feel important. Real power comes from quiet resilience, the discipline to work in the shadows, build something undeniable, and let your results speak when the time comes. I didn't need to shout to prove my worth. The ground beneath my feet was already solid. I took a slow sip of tea, feeling a deep, unshakable peace settle in my chest. If this story reminded you that your value is never defined by someone else's disrespect, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another empowering story. Thank you for listening, and remember, keep building in silence.